Well, good morning, fella. I'm gonna go hop in the shower because you have a date today. Do you know what that means? You have a date. You're going over to someone's house. You want to go visit Pollyanna? Okay. Well, we'll do that in just a little bit. Good morning, Ja. It's good to see you. Alright, guys. Good to see you. Let's turn the lights on and get this day started. We're actually, the main focus of our vlog today isn't happening till tonight. Scott Michaels over at Dearly Departed Museum and Tours has invited us for a special function. So we're going to hang out during the day and then go over and do that tonight. Let's go. I wanted to take Ja for a little bit of a walk through the Hollywood Bowl before we go over and see Pollyanna and Maverick. I think they're out at the park right now. I started laughing when I looked to see who was playing tonight. It just makes me think of that joke in Tommy Boy. Herbie Hancock. There's one. There's Maverick. Where's Pollyanna? Where's Pollyanna? There's Pollyanna. Hi. The craziness. The craziness is unleashed. Hi. Well, I'm kind of thinking of hopping on a train and going downtown. I'd kind of like to go down to Olivera Street. I know we've been down there a handful of times, but I just want to go down there and hang out and feel like I'm in Mexico for the day. I decided to pop in the apartment real quick before we went because I saw the mailman was putting things in the box before I left, and thank you, Chris and Sean Smith. We met up in London and they sent Ja some Nature Gnaws, which is awesome because he loves these things, and I actually gave him the last two yesterday, so perfect timing on that. Thank you so much, both of you. Yep, I decided to do it. Let's go down to the Olivera Street, have some fun. I'm gonna reload the card just in case. Alright, we're good to go. I do love coming to this train station. It's just classic architecture. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? I'm pretty sure on the weekends, most times there's music or some sort of festival going on up here, so that's kind of what I was coming for. Oh yeah, there is something going on for sure. Some dancing at least. Now this plaque here is to commemorate the original settlers here in California, the Indians. This is the blessing of the animals, as you can tell. I don't know if this goes on every weekend, but it happens most weekends I've shown up here. Now what's kind of weird is that even though this is Olivera Street, which is traditionally a Mexican type place, this plaque commemorates one of the French-Canadian mayors that we had here. He was who commissioned this plaza to be built. Wow, this is awesome. You did a great job on this. Check this out. This old wooden fashioned plaque in there. Plaza Substation, Los Angeles Railway. Henry Huntington, 1898 owner, 1927. I still have mine. That's when I always think of getting, maybe I will finally get it. Oh, that's great. Whoa, this is awesome. Oh yeah, this is great. Thinking of getting Ja this little costume. Comes with a sombrero he won't wear. Oh, I never noticed this before either. This is for Frida. Alright, I think we're gonna head out of here and head back to Hollywood so we can meet up with Scott Michaels for his event tonight. There you go, Wizard of Oz fans. Just your average traveler. I think there must be a white party somewhere today, where everybody has to wear white, or it's a wedding or something. Or an invasion. Holy moly. Well, we have arrived. Check this out. As seen on the layover with Anthony Bourdain. Well, 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 do you see what I see? No hearse. I wonder if he sold it. Let's go see. Kind of fun to see that closed sign and know that doesn't pertain to us. Ooh, I don't think Scott's trying to poison anybody, not with Stella. Got a little bit of wine here, some treats, Pugsley. 'Tis the season. Well, tonight should be interesting. If there's one thing I know about Scott Michaels is he always has a new surprise up his sleeve. Every time I come here, there's something new to see, and when he invites me out for an announcement, you know it's gonna be good. Well, this is new. In honor of passing of Burt Reynolds, he has a signed football. Many people don't know that Burt actually played professional football. As well as, you know, of course, you can see in the shirt he's wearing the Mean Machine from The Longest Yard. Interesting story I heard recently was back in the early 90s when Guns N' Roses used to tour, that's the reason Axl used to wear that football jersey with the 22, is he's a big fan of that movie. That is part of the lamp pole that Zsa Zsa Gabor crashed into. It says the start of the end. And that's the part that he has right there. There's our good pal Scott Michaels, and I just had a talk with him. He and I are going to put together a one-time Lionheart meetup tour that he and I go do together. We'll do it on a Sunday afternoon so that more people can attend. And here's the kicker. It's not even actually gonna be a Dearly Departed tour specifically. We're gonna put together a tour together based off of my vlog. We'll go to like Shelly's house. We might go to a cemetery. We're gonna go see some stuff that I've talked about or, you know, that we are all interested in. So it might be pretty cool. Look at that. Scott's history all the way back to Graveline Tours. Right there at the Cielo Drive road sign. The Tate House. Man, how sad is that? You take a look at that, and I mean, we've lost both of these guys within the last couple of months. Jerry Marin, one of the original Munchkins from Wizard of Oz, the last remaining one, I believe, and Anthony Bourdain. And if you look at the one from Anthony Bourdain, it's actually signed out to Dearly Departed, and then down right along the very, 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 very bottom, you can see right here, it says, "Hope I don't end up a stop on your tour." Well, not unless the tour moves to France. So like I said, we're gonna get some interesting announcements tonight. I can't wait to hear what it is. If you're in the area and you can't wait for us to do this this meetup tour between Scott and I, we're thinking somewhere probably after the new year, like January, February. You can go in October on the 7th and the 14th, and Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie will be conducting the tour. How about that? Nellie's Tinseltown Tour. Oh, dude, check that out. Featured in the book that I just got 2 copies of is this place. How about that? He's really up to date on his scented candles. He's already got one for Aretha in here. That's kind of a creepy visual, isn't it? The end of an era, and then you got that thing clapping. Right there you can see there's a little pebble from the grave of Princess Diana, and then up here on top is a piece of the death tunnel. So as I said, there's always something new. This is new to me. I've never seen this couch. This couch belonged to, well, Elizabeth Montgomery, Samantha Stevens herself from Bewitched. Alright, I think we're about ready to hear the announcements. Bob Hope's personal dictaphone. How cool is that? It's cool, some of the people that have been invited have never actually been here before. They're from various companies and various invites. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that is a ticket from the very last, I think, well, that's what Cary Grant was in town to do when he died at the theater. I believe he died while he was out to do an engagement. There's his death certificate. I think we should enter this, see if we can win a ride with Angeline in her famous Corvette. Caveat is, I don't think she lets you, I think she covers up her face when you take pictures now, so it could be an odd vlog, but let's do it anyway. There are a lot of people here. Both rooms are now filled. I've never seen something like this before. Insure your trip. $5,000 for 50 cents. Just put your money in there. Ticket stub. Man, look at that.
Tour called Graveline. A lot of Angelinos are familiar with that one. It was the first hearse-driven tour of the death styles of the rich and famous. And I was with that company for about 3 years, I think, and then I went and moved somewhere else, and the company went under. Actually, the company was sold, and the guy who bought it killed himself, which I thought was kind of interesting, sort of a poetic end to the whole thing. I mean, with love, I say with love, because it left room for me. I moved back here in 2002, and no one was doing this, so I started Dearly Departed Tours. Started doing it on my own in front of Starbucks on Hollywood Boulevard, and ultimately ended up here on Santa Monica Boulevard because we needed a place to put the big car. We're going to talk about the big car in just a couple of minutes. But a bit about the history of this company. So something summed it up really recently that I was at the King Tut exhibit, and I saw something on the wall that I had never heard before. And it said that humans die twice. The first time you die, you physically die. The second time you die is when the last person says your name out loud. And that really struck a chord with me, because that's exactly what we do right here. I mean, we I guess you could say we exploit people, but we do it with love, and we try to make things karmically good. I don't know, some of you guys may have seen Pugsley's ashes over there from the Addams Family. A couple of years ago, we raised the money to have Pugsley's grave. I approached the family, and with their permission, we raised the money and had a little funeral for him last Halloween and had him at Valhalla Cemetery. And his nephew gave us part of his ashes. So Pugsley's in here now, along with 4 other people. My mother's back there too. With love, it's all with love. And 2 dogs, 2 dogs. So 5 people, 2 dogs are in here. But so the Tragical History Tour was something I put together. It was just something that I wanted to show people. I put together what I wanted to see, or what I thought people should see. This is back when the Ambassador Hotel was still there. All these things were, we've zigged with the zags completely. Beverly Hills has made it so we can't go to Beverly Hills anymore, so we've had to add other things to the tour, and so we've done a lot of moving, and the tour is probably about 70% different than it was the day I started. But then again, it's modernized too, because people like Whitney Houston are on the tour now, and Michael Jackson. So we keep it current, and it's done out of love. So I wanted to, so the other tours that we do, I do the Tragical History Tour. We do a Helter Skelter tour that goes on Sundays now, and that is solely devoted to the Manson murders. A few years ago, or the Tate LaBianca murders, I keep trying to call it that, try not to keep Manson's name in it, but I did a documentary a few years ago called The 6 Degrees of Helter Skelter, and it's a geographic retelling of the murders. It's not how could this have happened, it's all this is where it happened. And so that's what I do. I put this together to do that. And next year is the 50th anniversary of the crimes, and it's going to be nuts. There's going to be a lot. We're going to be inundated with stuff about those murders. But it's done out of love, actually. You know, we have, with some of the proceeds from the tour, we donated to the Justice for Homicide Victims charity. Deborah Tate, there's a nice picture of Deborah and I thought she was going to be hating on me when I met her. And she was really nice. And she told me, I donated to another charity. She says, no, give to this one. It's the Justice for Homicide Victims. And so karmically, you know, we take advantage of people and their worst moments. However, you know, we don't do it, we'll go for a cheap joke always. I mean, that's just what we do. but you know, we try to we do everything with love, we do. The James Dean tour we're doing tomorrow, that'd be the first time we've ever done that, where we actually retraced James Dean's entire last trip up to Chelan, where he ended up being killed on 63 years tomorrow it is. In fact, one of the last things Jimmy did was pass this going at full speed. This was on the side of the road, right? Probably about 300 yards from where he was killed. So we're big Jimmy fans here. We've teamed up with Elisa Jordan from LA Woman Tours, and we do different tours with her. We do the Marilyn Monroe tour, we do Jean Harlow's Hollywood, we do the Doors tour and the Rock and Roll tour, and a couple of other tours. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the haunted, I would say the homicide tour in a bit. But we have 2 walking tours that we just started not long ago. And one of them is called Hollywood History and Haunts, and the other one is called Behind the Boulevard. And we're very excited about those, and the person who put these tours together is Brian Donnelly. And we love our Brian Donnelly. And Brian's going to tell you a little bit about these tours.
About me, so you guys, if you don't know about me, my name is Brian Donnelly. I was born in Philadelphia. I fell madly in love with Hollywood when I was about 13 years old, and I saw Joan Blondell in a movie, and it was marvelous. I was her and James Cagney, and then I saw Myrna Loy. And I was done. That was it. It was the greatest moment of my life, seeing Myrna Loy in a film. And I started getting hooked on Hollywood. And not just the films of Hollywood, but Hollywood itself, because of what Hollywood is, and what the movies are. And what the movies are, to me, is at an era at the turn of the century where in 1914, people, Germans sitting next to French, next to Americans, could sit in the theater and watch Timmy's Punctual Romance with Chaplin and Mabel Normand, and nobody speaks English, but they're all laughing their asses off. And that meant something to me. It really did. It meant a lot to me because it brought us together. But my brain works differently, and instead of enjoying the hell out of that, all I kept thinking is, oh, I wonder if that building is still there. Oh my God, look at the corner of that. God, look at, so, circumstances brought me to Los Angeles 18 years ago, and I was allowed to go crazy because I could do all the research and everything that I always wanted to do. I started working for Starline Tours. That's where I met Scott Michaels. Scott Michaels kept asking me, would please come work for me? And I was like, well, they treat me like a slave, but I make money. And he's like, well, but do it for love. And I was like, okay. So finally I gave in and then started doing this and started driving. Back in April, for those who don't know it, I had a little thingy in my brain that went crazy, so I've stopped driving for 2 years. I'm not driving doing a driving tour for 2 years. And rather than sit at home and cry about the fact that I can't work anymore, one day I was standing at the corner of Yucca and Cherokee, and I was thinking, oh, this is like the worst moment of my life. And I want to be able to tell people that right there at that corner was where L. Frank Baum's house used to be until it was torn down in 1956. Right across the street from the Canterbury where the Go-Go's and the Germs used to live. Right at the intersection where Percy McBride died, and I kept telling, oh my God, I can walk! And I contacted Scott, and I said, remember all that shit you had from the Ghost tour, which was brilliant. If you missed it, it was a brilliant tour, by the way. But I said, I can do a walking tour from the Roosevelt to Pantages, history, architecture, ghost stuff. I have ghost experience, for God's sake. I mean, actually, some of this stuff means a lot to me. So I said, I can do that. I said, and so we started going, yeah, well, let's do that. I said, but what I really want to do, and that's the first one I'm going to tell you about, is called Behind the Boulevard. Now, here's why it's Behind the Boulevard. Behind the Boulevard starts, both of them start with Roosevelt. But Behind the Boulevard goes, and Scott came to the idea of calling it that. It goes over, and I walk along up to Franklin, along Franklin to and if you're where we are, to Highland, down Yucca to Ivar, up Ivar to where they film Sunset Boulevard out to Vito, over to Vine, and then down to Hollywood and Vine. Okay? It's called Behind the Bar because it's the shit nobody shows. It's literally my own name. I walk past my own apartment, for God's sake, and I talk about Crack Alley, what it was like, and why the Whitley Rangers were there, and the Hudson Howlers, and everything that happened all this time. And it's a part of Hollywood that people don't realize, because you see where not only do you see where Janis Joplin died, but you're actually standing in the park where she bought the heroin that killed her. And rather than, because people drive along and you just drive, oh, well, that's what happened. People don't realize there's so many connections in this town, where at one intersection something happened, where if you can stand at right at the Magic Castle, knowing that the building behind is where Crowded House got their name, and right next to it was a building where what's his name, Lots of Papa Crow got shot by Charlie Manson in July of '69, right before the murders happened, things like that. The other tour is a tour that I do more frequently because it's just something people enjoy, and it's just a regular boulevard tour. Now let me explain about that one. The first one is about an hour and a half because there's no people involved as far as weaving your way through the boulevard and that other kind of crap. Okay. The second one is almost 2 hours long because there's people involved, and I'm really big on show and tell, especially with the boulevard, because let's be honest, a monkey with a hat could do a tour on Hollywood Boulevard. Okay, that's the Dolby, that's Drama and Chinese Theater. There's the Rose Bowl, had the first Academy Awards. I mean, that's lovely, but anybody can do that. So what has to, you have to do something different. I was taught how to be a tour guide by a guy named Wally in Washington, D.C. I used to do tours in Washington, and he said, you don't give a tour, you tell stories. And it's important to use things. Show and tell is important. I collect a lot of shit. If you look at my apartment, I got all kinds of stuff. And and things talk to me. And so on this particular tour, there are items that I grab, and I actually bring them on tour with me.
The actual locations where the Halloween was filmed, the Nightmare on Elm Street, etc., out in Pasadena. So that's a lot of fun too. We love doing that tour. Now, the museum itself, I started collecting things when I was a kid. I lived in a corner where there were a lot of accidents, car accidents. I grew up in Detroit. My mother used to make mosaics. She did it for fun. She wasn't an artist. Well, she had talent, but she wasn't doing it to make, she was doing it for fun, just as a release. She would make these mosaics. She made the mosaics out of the car crash glass that we had out in front. I need red glass. Well, they used to make, glass on cars were glass. The taillights is there, so we'd go out and get red glass. So I guess I was sort of desensitized to this sort of thing when I was very young. Now, I've known from Detroit, and it's not a prerequisite, but I've known 5 people that have been murdered over the years. And one of the people that was murdered was a girl that used to work in a pizza place nearby. She was abducted from the parking lot at the pizza joint. This is back in 1977, I think, and taken to this place, and unspeakable things happened, and then they ended up shooting her. So I don't know why. I can't explain why I did it, but a couple of months after it happened, I went by the house, terrible area. I don't know why I did it. I had a hammer, and I took the address off the house. So I was 15 years old when I did that. Now, the address is right there. That's like the first thing I've ever collected. And my sort of thought about this is that it may have been, I don't know, it's a terrible thing to have happened. But nobody has said her name out loud. Asaro is her name, Susan Asaro. Nobody has said her name out loud in probably 30 years. And now there are dozens of people a day knowing who she was. Maybe not the way she wanted to be remembered, but she is remembered. 4,000 miles or 3,000 miles away from where she lived. So to me, that's sort of the aspect of what we do here. And although it's not people's proudest moments or best moments, but they are moments and they are history. Horrific homicide tour. And it's all real people. I didn't usually like to go into the real thing because, I don't know, it's a privacy issue in a way, but then these stories are so bizarre, so very out there, that they're real people, but the stories are unreal. There's a chainsaw murder. Just down Santa Monica Boulevard, there's a pizza joint. And it used to be a rental place in the 70s called Jack's Rents. Actually in the mid-80s. And there was a gentleman who rented a chainsaw from Jack's Rents and murdered his roommate with this chainsaw, and then buried his roommate up by Six Flags. And he returned the chainsaw without cleaning it. They noticed a strange odor. They called the police, They found the guy that he said he killed his dog with it, or chopped his dog up with it when the dog died. So they demanded that they take him to where the dog is buried, and it ended up where he ended up confessing. But I mean, really, seriously, a guy, the chainsaw murder of the rental place. Now we also have, just a couple of doors down is the Harvey Apartments. Now it's not a nice place. Actually, now they're selling them as they're marketing them as micro studios, 400 square feet, and it's like $1,200 a month to stay there. And it used to be really, it is still pretty divey. And remember the Ronnie Chasen murder out in Beverly Hills, the publicist who was shot at the corner of Hollywood, or Sunset and Whittier? It ended up, I mean, the police, unbelievable what they did. At first they said it was an expert marksman that pulled up alongside her car and shot her 5 times. And then, but then it turned out that there was this guy that lived in the Harvey Apartments who was one, moment away from being homeless, a bit dotty, like a lot of the homeless people are out here. And ended up where this guy rode a bike to the middle of Beverly Hills at midnight, not caught on a single camera, a guy on a bicycle in Beverly Hills at midnight. And I mean, no disrespect, and I'm probably going to talk myself into a corner, but he was a black guy in Beverly Hills at midnight on a bicycle. Okay, I'm not going to, it's not right, but it would have raised red flags. So he put the bike on the side of the road, walked over to Ronnie Chasen's car, and supposedly shot her. Now, a few days afterwards, or about I think it was a week or two afterwards, they did an America's Most Wanted on him, and they said that he was living at the Harvey Apartments. One of his roommates said he was bragging about the murder at the Harvey Apartments. So the police were following him for a while, and they went into, they finally approached him as he was entering his apartment building, and they said, Mr. Smith, is his name, Harold Smith, he said, we'd like to speak to you, and he pulled a gun out of his bag and shot himself in the head. They never got a chance. This is the lobby of the Harvey Apartments, just a couple of blocks down. So the police, first of all, they said that the ballistics, the bullets of his gun did not match the Ronnie Chasen bullets. Then, a couple of days later, they said that he would, the fact that, like the Scientology murder, nothing against Scientologists, they're very nice people, but remember that was of each other. And so I just thought that they were interesting enough that they merited their own attention and their own tour. So that the Horrific Homicide Tour will be launching next week. It's our first nighttime tour as well. It's going to run on Saturday night.
I had never seen this either. Maybe this is new. Patrick Swayze's knee brace that didn't work too well, and a few pieces of his hair were in there as well. You can see there's the hair, and then there's the knee brace. Well, I think we're gonna go pick up John now. Well, we took an Uber over and picked him up. There he is. Well, that's it, gang. Now you know what Scott Michaels is up to. Now you know that Scott Michaels and I are going to be doing a special tour together for the Lionhearts after the new year that I will let you all know more about once we get to get all the details and the date and everything finalized. What I think we're going to do is the package will include the museum itself and a tour, and I will let Scott set that price. So there you go. If you're interested, that'll be your time. Thank you, Sandra Burton, for becoming my newest Patreon, and thank you all for watching. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great night, and goodbye.